Well, welcome and thanks for joining me for another episode of On a Different Note. This is episode 160, and on behalf of myself and my co-host Bob Hughes, I'd like to welcome you. We have a really, really great show lined up for today. We have with us members of the Willis Clan. We are really excited and thankful that they were able to take the time today to be on the show and to talk about their experiences. They have an absolutely amazing story. They're an amazing and unbelievably talented family. I have never seen so many people in one family that are so good looking and have so much talent. It's unbelievable. So we're very excited to have them with us today. As you know, those of you who have subscribed and tuned into this program on a regular basis, this is our new program where we talk a little bit about the music industry and what lessons we can learn as business people and entrepreneurs from those people involved in the real cutthroat business of music, and how so many of the people that we've talked to have just made such a mark for themselves, going an alternate route and doing things morally and ethically. And that really, I think, signifies what the Willis Clan is about. So I'd like to welcome them to the show. I believe we have Brenda. Brenda, how are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you? Thanks so much for having us on the show.
Well, thank you very, very much. I know you guys are busy. You're touring. You've got so much going on. You have the TLC show. There's so much that you're doing. And for you to take the time today to be on this program, it really, really means a lot to us. I believe we have your husband, Toby, too?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hey, Toby, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Toby.
I'm doing just fine.
Good. All right. So, I want to talk a little bit about what this business model of yours is, because it's an unbelievable business model. I'm lucky if I can get my kids to cooperate in the car for 15 minutes and you have a family of 12 kids and you're running a business, because that's really what it is. And you're just so successful. And, the way that you are portrayed on the TLC show, it seems so genuine and real. And from what I've read about you, it seems like you guys, that's what you are. What you see is what you get. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this business that you've set up. What is it like being a family business in the music industry?
Well, this is Toby. It's actually very common for a lot of families, in the music industry, what should I say? A lot of people in the music industry to be family and so on, because it's very easy once the instruments are bought. They're in the house, and kids have access to them. How many kids would be great musicians who just simply never got to touch an instrument? So it's actually not, that uncommon. What is uncommon about us, I think, is the fact that technology has changed, and rather than the traditional music teacher route, my kids are learning from YouTube, from people I don't even know who's teaching them. But they have access to CDs on, music online and stuff, and they have access to a studio at a very young age. I mean, just take a simple iPad, and you have more power than I had when I was a college student. And so, in a sense, the wildness of the education and the advanced technology that they have access to leads to a very different product in the end.
Well, good morning, Toby. This is Bob. That's an interesting story, because it's not something that everyone gets a chance to understand. And when you talk about a family business, when did we know a little bit about your backstory and how you overcame some tragedy. Did you starting a family business based on something your kids love evolve out of that tragedy? Where did that idea come from?
The idea, it's funny. Somebody asked me that about 5 days ago, and I said before I was married. And that's why I married a girl who did music, and who had a love for music like I did. And now our kids have far surpassed us. But there was a before we were married, that was part of the equation, is picking somebody who liked music. We had a conversation before we got married and said we try for 12 kids. We've learned a lot and had to grow into that role. The funny thing is, the guy who really started the whole business management movement was a guy, the husband and wife of 12 children. And the original Cheaper by the Dozen movie and book were written about them. So, there's a strong connection between business management and having a large family. It trains you well. You either go nuts or you get good. One of the two.
Well, here's a question for you. You would, in a traditional business model, you'd have employees. Now, you don't have employees. You have an army of children. How do you manage the kids? Because, managing an employee is completely different than managing your family member. But I would imagine you're going to have to put on a different hat when you're in the studio or doing recording. How do you manage that role?
Well, that's a very interesting dynamic that we are still uncovering. For one, I can't fire my employee when they do a bad job.
As a matter of fact, we were discussing this last night because I can't tell you this officially, but there may be some future episodes for TLC, but we were just discussing this, what an interesting episode it would make. Toby, the role that he has to play and the multiple roles that he has to play, how hard does he push the kids? Is it too hard? Is it not enough? Does he, how does he pursue helping them reach their full potential, and then our family business as its full potential? So, yeah, that's a question that's being asked and that we hope to continue to explore.
And one thing that I want to make sure that people understand, when the kids are young, I'm the king of the castle. I'm the dictator. I'm the guy. I'm the boss. As they get older, it's a partnership. I don't know, I still have a lot of weight to throw around because I still have a lot of little kids, and in a sense I represent a majority, so to speak, a majority stockholder, if you can imagine. But it becomes much more of a partnership. And eventually, I had to go to my kids and say, look, because of our financial situation, I don't have to work. The reason why I work is I work for you. And I'm not the boss as much as I am the employee of you guys. And that we're here to try to set you guys up for life. Again, not just up for a job and money, but set you guys up for a life where, yes, you do have income, and you do have a nice job, but you like your life. I want them to wake up in the morning and say, I get to do great things and have a lot of fun. Not as that's the goal of what we do, but it's a pretty good byproduct of the hard work and I try to say the smart work that we try to do.
Well, I think
that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you said something that just for me just hits home. If you don't love what you do, what's the point of doing it? And to be able to really have a lot of passion and love for what you do, it's got to be an amazing feeling to wake up every day and love what you do.
And what's interesting dynamic is, and we talked about this some even yesterday with the kids, and at one point Jessie came to me and said, Dad, I don't want to be the lead singer. Jessie's my oldest daughter who's here. Mm-hmm. And said she didn't want to be the lead singer of the band or didn't want to play fiddle. And I came back and said, no, I want you to. At one point, I had to go to my son who was playing nylon guitar and saying, I want you to learn electric guitar. And he's like, 17 years old, 18 years old, going, Dad, I don't want to play electric guitar. I'm like, yes, you do. Now they look back and say, gee, thanks. It was, really strange. I'm trying to convince my teenage son to play electric guitar. But it's just, they didn't know what was good for them. And that's part of the role of the parents, to push them into stuff. And not just, even when you get an initial pushback, to push them through. And then, they come back, a year or two later and say, gee, thanks, Mom and Dad. I really like, what I'm doing now. So, that's weird is they don't even know, kid would have a hot dog the rest of their life. 5 years old, that's all they know, and that's what they like. And you want to say, no, there's something called a steak out there. Just you pay, trust me. So, it's a big experiment that every parent has to deal with. And for that matter, every business person, how do they know what people like? And sometimes, I kind of like, I think with Steve Jobs, he said, how do they know what they like until we show them?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's interesting. I'm glad that you talked about, taking your children and pushing them forward into things that they've not experienced before, or maybe that you reinforce what they're doing, because that's got to put some stress on you, not only as a business, but as a family as well. Is there some intertwining of the stress of the business, or is the business a lot more fun than being in the family?
I'll tell you right now, the business, there is a lot of fun. I mean, there's a reason why they say you play music, you don't work music.
Right.
Although anybody who understands there's a heck of a lot of work involved. Matter of fact, I told people, you want to be an Olympic champ, it's probably easier work than this. it's the same level of dedication that it is hard work. But what people see, there is this, the same reason why you say you play a sport. That all the hard work goes on beforehand. And when you get on the field, you get to play a sport. And same thing, you get on stage, you get to play. But there's a heck of a lot of hard work that goes into it.
And one thing I told you, go ahead, Brenda. I'm sorry.
Toby wrestled all the way through elementary school, high school, won the Illinois State Championship, and then went to Northwestern on a wrestling scholarship and wrestled at Northwestern in the Big Ten. He has brought that mentality of wrestling to our family, to our business, and it is a philosophy and a work ethic that is very strong, very. I mean, I don't know if you know any wrestlers, but they just have a different outlook on life and a different way they do things, and so the stress of pushing the kids and the family and the business and all really was nothing in comparison to the original paradigm of wrestling.
I still say, no matter how hard we work, we're moving gear, setting up. It's hot at an outdoor fair in the middle of summer. I'm like, you think you're in a sauna. I'm like, this sure beats cutting weight in a sauna and wrestling. I'm like, this is still easier work. But there is stress. But it's one of those things. Stress. Stress is somewhat how you react to a situation. You can look at the stress that's being put on you, and you can look at the stress that you put on yourself. But you just have to grow into the. You either take the mindset of I am going to do everything I can to run away from stress and to minimize stress, or I am going to do everything I can to get better and use that stress to make me better, and the whole family better. And so, there's been times where I've gone to the kids. I'm like, do we just throw the towel in and give up, or do we just figure out ways to get more efficient, to get faster, to get better at what we do and get smarter at what we do? And so it's just of course I've been trained in the crucible of wrestling and life for and I'm a little bit more hardcore. And it's interesting. I was talking to the kids. When I get together with all my ex-wrestlers, that's the number one topic we talk about. How hard do we push? And most of the wrestlers don't even get their kids in wrestling because they push so hard themselves. That, they're like, man, I don't know if I can, do that to my kids as a father. So it's a very interesting question.
You talk about stress and sort of learning how to adapt and deal with it. And that's an interesting point because a lot of people believe that, I just don't handle stress well. I believe that handling stress is more of a learned skill. It's something that over time, when you're exposed to it enough and you can sort of talk to yourself and get yourself through it, you adapt and you're able to handle it better. You guys have had a great life, but you've also had a lot of things go wrong. You had your house burned down, and I saw an interview with you, Toby, where, you basically said, listen, I've had worse things happen in my life. And I thought to myself, wow, what an amazing sort of response to that, because most people who lost everything would be saying, why me? Why me? How did you learn how to deal with stress? Is it a learned skill? Do you believe that?
Well, and here's where I agree with you, and I bring up an example, just like I talk about wrestling help training, and the reason why a lot of people don't realize the ancient Greeks and the Romans, pretty much everybody went to a wrestling school, and their extracurricular activity was their academics, and the reason why is they knew wrestling was training for the crucible, so to speak, and so they understood that, and so you read somebody like, Plato's Republic, Plato was actually a wrestler, and Plato was his nickname actually for his broad shoulders. So, it's something that the ancients understood, that we need to force our kids into the crucible to train them. Nowadays it seems like everybody says, hey, let's just put them out on the soccer field and teach them to get along, and everybody gets a trophy at the end of the day, which doesn't set us up for business, a real understanding of business very well. So, I always tell the kids, life trains you. You have to have the right outlook on life. And the other thing about stress and hard things happening is, while wrestling is a big influence, the other thing is my dad was a minister, and I grew up in church, and there's an idea of, religion and faith. And, unfortunately, a lot of people don't actually read the Bible anymore, but just about everybody in the Bible, even if the good people went through hard times. And that's a big, big theme that goes through the Bible, is how do you handle hard times? And so, I think religion plays a really big role. If you think you're the only one out there, that there is no higher power controlling everything, then you kind of like, I'm it.
Right.
But if you say, no, there's somebody else out there, and they're guiding my life and everybody's life and the life of the world, or at least the people, there's certain people that God has said, look, you love me, I love you, I take care of you, don't worry. And it's a little bit, you got this safety net behind you that allows you to say, okay, I will now face the giant. I mean, that's literally where that expression came from, is out of the Bible, David fighting Goliath. And he said, hey, it's not my fight, it's God's fight. So I think religion can also, that whole religious and philosophy mindset can actually help with business, because now all of a sudden you're going, hey, I'm not alone.
Right.
That's a great way to look at it. Sounds like you've set the table pretty well with your family, getting everyone prepared to do what you do. And in that spirit, when did you decide? What did it take? How many kids did you have ready, per se? Did you, what was that piece that pushed you into ready to say, all right, we're ready to do this. We're ready to be a family of musicians and entertainers? How did you break it?
It's really a funny story. It's a very funny story.
Great.
Because Toby wrestled, and we had our first 4 kids. 3 of them were girls. And my son Jeremiah, at 2 years old, was not interested in wrestling around with Toby. He would go in Jessica's drawer, steal her tights, come out and turn on the Nutcracker and imitate Mikhail Baryshnikov doing ballet. Imagine how that goes over with a wrestling father.
Put him in a singlet, he'll be fine.
Yeah, right. No, it was very interesting, because we discovered that Jer had a talent and an interest in something very different than what Toby had. And I give Toby a lot of credit for looking at that, and not, the jock dad saying, oh, you're not going to be a wimp, you're going to wrestle, and, you're not going to do that. He looked at that and said, this kid has incredible talent at a really young age. And so, by 5 or 6 years old, we had him in dance classes, and then put an instrument in his hand and realized that he was just a child prodigy when it came to music. And so then, and Jess got instruments in her hand, and we just started seeing that at a very young age, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. These kids were brilliant in music. Well, Toby and I loved music. We had talked about music before we ever got married. Didn't realize that we were going to have kids that were, this talented. And so really just kind of followed their lead, and seeing where their talents and their potential was.
And by the way, Jared, my oldest son, who is the dancer in tights at 2 years old, is a state champion, so he is tough as nails. But it's a pretty funny story to see. And the funny thing is, my two sons below him, Jack and Jedi, also wrestle, and they're also state champion wrestlers and stuff. What's interesting is some of their competitors were also, as they're taking dance lessons, their competitors, their competitor's father was actually one of the top ballroom dancers in the world. And so it's funny, in the wrestling scene that's talking about ballroom dance and Irish dance and all this stuff, and people at the wrestling events are looking at them like, what is going on here? And of course, being in Nashville, there's so many musicians. So it's just, but I'm a firm believer of, again, coming back to training a kid for life, not just for a job, so that they not only have an income, but they love their life. And part of that is the arts and that full spectrum of, whereas the school may say, hey, that's not important for a job, which is true, but that aspect is very important for a quality of life. And, and that's where we homeschool, we get a chance to, sit down and decide what they learn, where we're going to spend our energy. And, if my kid wanted to be a rocket scientist, we'd be doing a lot of physics and calculus. But, at a young age, they came out loving music and dance. Jessica wrote her first song at age 7. We told her Beethoven and Mozart were doing it. She didn't know any better. So she got started and I think that's an important thing. Rather than just giving them a page to color, you're sitting there showing them Michelangelo and Renoirs and Monets and stuff like that. And all of a sudden it's, sometimes we just think, oh, kids want bright colors and simple shapes.
Right.
And, our experience has been that kids are pretty doggone intelligent right from the get-go, and we need to expose them to the highest art we can.
Not to get too far off track, but that seems to be one of the problems with the educational system in this country, because education seems to be prepping kids to take standardized testing as opposed to listening to them and getting them to experience different things. And I think that makes you a well-rounded person, not just prepping for a standardized test. So it sounds like, you guys took that and rolled with it.
The other thing is, we definitely, and part of it is I was homeschooled. My dad's a public school teacher in Chicago, and he was a minister, yes, but that isn't where he made his money. His money was he worked a regular job as a school teacher, and so he was very much involved in education, and in some ways kind of forward thinking, and homeschooled us when it was actually illegal and we had to do it in secret. Now it's legal and there's millions of people who do it, and of course technology has empowered the flexibility of all the stuff that you can do there. But, now since my kids are second generation homeschoolers, we can go into it with a confidence and a passion that really, we're able to sit there and say, hey, we're going to break a lot of rules. But, innovation is a key in business. It's a key in, a lot of areas. And, by and large, most schools are doing things the way things were done, 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We have technology stuff that, we talk about music stores going out of business or bookstores going out of business. How about schools going out of business?
Yeah.
I always tell people it won't happen because of the inertia of people needing babysitting services. But the fact is, technology-wise, schools are a dinosaur. They really are. And we need the flexibility, and the technology to raise up a next generation of innovators. And, we looked and said, hey, standardized tests and the standardized kit is not our product. We're going for creativity, which is really interesting because how do you put creativity on a schedule? But it's more just recognizing that, hey, creativity is like printing money or like digging gold. When you find it, you spend your resources to harvest it, develop it and market it. But, we told the kids, hey, look, it's not just a matter of here's the test, here's your answers. It's a matter of here's a blank piece of paper, write something, and draw something, write something. And you're literally, we use the word printing money, because you're literally creating money. And, whether you're growing crops out of the ground or whether you're, anyway, there's lots of, we tend to just, at this point, we're so far down the road and we're blowing through every rule in the book on how to do stuff, but kind of in finding different set of rules. And like we like to say, a more cool set of rules.
Yeah.
No, and it's even more than rules. It's a way of life. And you guys have done a lot of different things from the norm. And you say you're breaking rules, but is there one thing that you have noticed, whether it's the music or whether it's your faith or your drive or just simply love? What's the most important piece of the puzzle that you see that's helped you get to where you all are today?
That's today that we were in. Look, we can talk about how we try to work hard. We can talk how we try to work smart. Those are phrases that we throw around all the time. Work hard, work smart. The other phrase that we like to throw about is be nice. There is the thing of I don't care how good you are, I don't care how hard you work and stuff, but we do need that element of love to forgive each other. You got a bunch of A personalities in the household. Everybody's going a million different miles. There still has to be that element of love that's got, you have to care for people. You have to, it isn't just cutthroat business. And then, ultimately, again, I want to put credit where credit's due. I believe there is a, higher deity that does have our back and who gives us gifts and so on. And, a lot of times you talk business, you talk, hey, how hard we try to create a good environment. We try to, have good education, but, there's sometimes where, we've been blessed, and we just have to admit that as good as we are, it doesn't all come from us.
Right. That makes me wonder, because I agree with you and, my own personal beliefs. I know that, especially as an entrepreneur, you're all by yourself, and you might have people that work underneath you, but it's you. And to just be you in this world is frightening. So I believe, like you do, that, there is a higher power, and you do get things from God, and you are blessed. And I think for me, I rely on that, because you can't do it all alone. But you're in a business, you're in an industry that is notoriously cutthroat. There are people that will climb over other people just to get to the top. How do you manage in the music industry to stay, in tune with your morals and ethics and still manage to make a living?
I'll tell you what, Nashville is an incredible place. You talk about being blessed. You talk about, God directing where you're going to be and what you're going to do. But Toby and I talked 14 years ago about where we were going to live. We had 6 kids in a little 2-flat and in the Chicagoland area, and we knew it was time to get a house and, kind of settle in a little bit. And looked for 2 years in Chicago and couldn't find a house that we liked, and deals fell through, and it was crazy. And we're like, maybe we're not supposed to be in Chicago. And through a series of conversations and looking at a map, we ended up buying a house in Nashville. Didn't know anybody there, didn't have any clue what we were getting into, but just felt like it was the right place for us. And that has been confirmed, I think, every day since we've moved there. And the music industry in Nashville is not the cutthroat New York or LA scene at all. It is a wonderful family of people that share our values, share our morals, and help each other and love each other. And I mean, we've been invited into those people's.
Yeah,
sure,
of
course. But I mean, by and large, I would say, we started playing on the Grand Ole Opry, probably played over 50 times now, and have been invited into celebrities' homes and invited to do work with them and invited to write songs with them. And they have just been so excited about these young kids that love music and want to make it their life, that they have actually infused themselves into us to inspire us and encourage us. Stay true to yourself and stay true to what you believe, and, don't compromise. Nashville's an amazing place. I think it's awesome.
That's it. The other.
Go ahead.
The other interesting. There is the cutthroat. First of all, the music business is changing. Anybody who's a 30-year veteran in the music business, to be honest, will have to look at it and say, I have no idea what's going on. But, computer technology does tend to upset the whole fruit basket. And while it leaves a lot of people dinosaurs, it also, gives rise to a whole new, generation of companies, ways of doing things. And that process is still, that evolution is still under the way big time in the music industry. But, for us, true, if you go for true talent, true hard work, true, being smart, and, we said rather than trying to give people what they're asking for, we're going to be true to ourselves. And, we think we understand that there are a lot of, middle-class, family value people out there, whether you call them the silent majority or whatever, that, doesn't buy into the, hey, I drink beer and drive a jacked up 4-wheel drive pickup truck all the time in country music, or, I'm a hip hop person where I just listen to a lot of music and I'm like, this doesn't relate to me. But it's just, on the other hand, we go back and we'll study, like the old Irish music that's hundreds and hundreds of years old, whether it's classical, whether it's Irish, more of the traditional folk music. Hey, I'm not afraid to look at an Amish farmer and say he knows something that I don't know. At the same time that I'm an IT guy and I'm putting together a, fiber channel fan and networking everything. We want to have an open mind to what's new and to what's old, and realize some of the wisdom of the ancients is still good. And, so whether it's musically or however we look at life, it's just like, build a quality product, and the business side tends to take care of itself. We have to work real hard at it, and we may have to innovate and be creative. But you start with a bad product, you're just going to have a hard time building a business. If you say, hey, I'm going to have a quality product, then the business model. Even if you make mistakes, if you got something quality, you get to sit there and say, hey, I still have something good here, and we'll still be able to eventually figure out how to do this business thing right.
I think talking about the cutthroat, industry, I don't think we feel in competition with anybody. And that's why I think that hasn't hit us too much. We have a goal of creating a beautiful life for our kids and a quality of life that is something that we would do whether we were making money at it or not, whether we were on TV or not, whether there were cameras around or not. And it just so happens that it does resonate with people. And so cameras are there and we are on tour because people are enjoying it. But we would do it whether it was part of the industry or not. And there's really no one in competition with us. There is no other big family act that's trying to attain the same thing we are.
Yeah, not at least on the same way we're doing it. There's kind of the original American capitalist idea of find a niche and meet that need, meet that demand. And, I think a lot of New York and Hollywood cutthroat music business people, they're not married, they don't have kids. They don't come with the perspective that we have of saying, hey, there's a lot of people who are mom and dad, have kids. They want something different than what LA and New York, and even now Nashville, since they've been taken over so much by New York and LA, they've gotten out of touch with the demand. And, they are meeting a certain type of demand, but I think we're saying, hey, we're identifying a niche that's been left open. The Osmonds aren't, there anymore, stuff like that. So we're able, the Von Trapps. But there's always been families who have tried to do that niche. It's just now we kind of, we just kind of say, hey, how do we take the Von Trapps to a new generation kind of a thing? And it's not just this simple little folk singing family anymore. We play electric guitar, drums, classical instruments, folk instruments, and this isn't your grandma's airplane or car anymore. This is a new century. So that's morphed a little bit, but hey, we just found a niche and we're saying, hey, we're going for it. And so our business and our family life all kind of merge into one. And rather than seeing them as two separate things, which a lot of business people see, we're saying, hey, we join them at the hip, but we do them together. And so we live as a family together and we work together. And it makes sense because really our family, when it comes down to it, our family kind of, my kids will inherit all the wealth that my wife and I have. There's a natural sense of, we work together because, that's just, I instill my values into them, or at least I try, and then I empower them to go forward. And I loved them when they were little. Hopefully they'll love me when I'm old. And we got a good bit, I'm not dependent on Social Security, that's for sure. But
no, good call.
So, family and business are a lot more intertwined, than, that's the old-fashioned way of doing things. Before there was government and Social Security playing this third party. And I'll tell you what, I like my retirement model a heck of a lot more than the Social Security retirement model. So, it's just family and business, intertwined, goes way back. It's the oldest model there is.
You drew a nice dichotomy, actually, there, and I don't know if you'd noticed it, in the fact that you talked about how Nashville was more of a community than, say, New York or L.A. And then you also talked about how computers and how much you can do on your own. And so you kind of have a choice between the best of both worlds. You can lean on your friends and family and community in Nashville to move forward in the business through recording studios, engineering, et cetera, or you can do a lot on your own. And even when it comes to publishing, what played into your decision to self-publish?
The funny thing is we were forced to, and in so many ways, because the industry looked at us and said, we don't, so much of the music industry looked at us and said, we see the talent, we don't actually know what to do with you guys. I mean, somebody would look at it and say it's the proverbial elephant. Somebody touched the trunk and say, "Oh, I get you guys," and then someone touched the tail and see a different aspect, and somebody touched the leg. But when they start seeing the whole elephant, they're going, "Wow, that's not the the model that we're looking at." And they literally said, "We don't know what to do with you guys." And so it's like, well, if you guys don't know, we'll figure it out ourselves. And so
shame on them.
Look, if the industry people were to, and I think they were willing to bite and sign us and do things the old-fashioned way, but my kids would be country artists singing, with a country drawl, doing, the same old song that, sounding just like everybody else on the radio. And I think, even the fact that, the parents were involved and we were doing this thing, I think even a lot of industry people said, we don't want to break up this beautiful thing that we see. It's just not worth it for us. But, Michael Curb at Curb Records says, I don't want to sign kids because, is there a future lawsuit waiting to happen? Some of the country people said, but, you guys aren't stereotypical country, or not even country at all, pretty much. So, they, thankfully, a lot of people, didn't try to force us into being in their image and their model. But, LA, New York really didn't know what to do with us. Nashville didn't know what to do with us. So it's like, okay, we'll just build it ourselves.
Well, that's amazing because so many people, I think, would just stop. So many people would just give up and say, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm going to go and look for traditional work and do something else." Yet, you saw it. I think the way you perceive things as more of, okay, it's a challenge. Let's get over it. Let's figure it out. Yeah. I think is helpful. How did you guys end up getting onto America's Got Talent?
Well, we did. Somebody had told us about the Today Show having a Sound of Music contest, and they're like, "You guys should enter. You guys should enter." And of course, people have always laughed and called us the Von Trapps, or since we did Irish music, the O Trap. Especially when we had 7 kids, and so that's always kind of been a running joke in the family. But on the other hand, pretty serious. And so when that contest came out, we said, hey, this is an opportunity for us to step forward and maybe, gain a little spotlight on what we're doing and who we are. And indeed we did. And the funny thing is when we first, sent in our audition and everything and they found out who we are, they were blown away. They're like, we're looking for this cute little singing family and you guys are like serious musicians. And, some people are like, wait a minute, you can't even enter this contest. And I'm like, why not? They're looking for a modern Von Trapp family. We're the definition of that. Maybe not exactly what they were looking for, but so that we got on the radar there, and then of course America's Got Talent actually for 5 years had asked us to be on the show, 12 different times.
Wow!
And finally we said yes, and it's like what we had a reality show on GAC. It was a small network, and we weren't getting a lot of. They just not a lot of eyeballs on GAC, so we're like, that's not working out too well. And, the Sound of Music thing said, hey, this is working out. America's Got Talent, I believe, was on the same network. And they actually knew the producers at the Today Show and stuff. And so it's like, okay, maybe we'll finally do this. We looked at the contracts, and boy, that was a rolling of the dice. But it worked out. We got some exposure, and, it was a big gamble. And, we got exposure without getting stuck with the long-term contract. So for us, it was, a lot of positive. It's just, look, when one door shuts, we just try to find another door. And, part of the, anybody who diversifies their portfolio knows that, some stocks are going to go up while others go down. And so when we train in multiple disciplines and we, diversify, that we find open doors where other people, when one door shuts, we find others that are open, and AGT was one of those open doors for us. So
that's it.
Sorry. By the way, we're back traveling in the bus. Hopefully, you guys can still hear me. Okay.
Everything sounds great now. And tell the kids we're not ignoring them. We just haven't got to them yet. You talk about exposure on AGT and GAC, TLC when they came along. That's got to be a pretty dangerous and beneficial double-edged sword to balance how did you look at that? How did you guys all decide that was a good idea?
Well, we had discussions about it, and again, we had a show on GAC earlier. So by the time we got to the TLC, it was our second go at things. And look, the Wright brothers' plane that they built that flew wasn't their first version, and even on our television show, GAC was our first plane we tried to get off the ground, and it was not optimal. And even now with TLC, we got the plane off the ground, things are doing well, but we still sitting there, going, hey, we want to take this little biplane and turn it into a jet. And so there's still, room for improvement on that.
We actually found a producer that had produced other shows on TLC, and he really wants to stay true to who we are. He's very sensitive to what we believe and how we go about doing things, and he's actually fascinated with it, but he wants to help us stay true to that because he thinks there's something there. So it happens very organically. There's 2 camera guys, 2 sound guys, and 2 producers in the house. That's it. It's not a gigantic crew with, makeup and hair and lights and everything as much.
We outnumber the crew.
Yeah. So it's very organic thing. You were talking earlier about it feeling real, and that's a main goal that we have. And since we found a producer that was willing to do that, it's really, really made a difference for us.
Well, I think the
other producer.
I think the show did.
There's 2 producers on.
Oh, go ahead, Toby.
I'll let you go ahead. You go first.
Okay. The thing about the show is that it really does come across as if it's, like we're really in your living room, and you really get to know you, and it's very genuine. And there's a lot of shows on TLC that have that same feel to it, but for some reason, you just want to like you and your family because it just does feel so wholesome and real. And, you're not waiting for the skeletons to pop out of the closet. You just feel good about the show, which I think is really what I'm sure you wanted to achieve.
Yeah. First of all, there's a lot of people who want to keep it real. We kind of forget that the camera guys are there, and what you see is what you get. We're not perfect people. I've even gone to TLC and said, look, if I yell at the kids or somebody does something bad, I don't mind if you show it, as long as you show it in the same proportion of what happens in real life. If I blow up 1% of the time and love the kids the other 99%, just make sure that's the ratio that it's shown on the show,
right.
So that it is balanced and real. And on the other hand, don't cut out that 1% and make us look like we're these perfect people that, and everybody all of a sudden thinks that, we're absolutely flawless. We're
Right.
real people. We just, in many ways, I've stopped caring about, I told the kids, don't worry about being perfect. Just worry about being real. And if you have flaws, just realize that, work through them. And, they're a chance for us to step up, show improvement, show that we're real human beings. And the flaws are, look, nobody has a great story without having to fight some battle, and usually it's a character flaw. And I said, heck, Spider-Man, Superman, they all got weaknesses, and we do too. And so we want, first of all, we want to try to be good people. We want to try to do things right. And we want to try to produce, this wholesome family thing, that seems to work on all levels and yet have this cool hip edge to it. But, it's just, and at the end of the day, when bad things happen, we have to realize that, love is that secret ingredient that, keeps us together rather than, sending us all in different directions.
Sure then. Yeah, the love you talked about earlier when you talk about the piece of the puzzle that keeps everyone together. The other thing that's kind of kept you guys together, and if Jess and Jer are nearby, they may want to chime in on this a little bit. When you start to talk about the creation of your sound, it's kind of a cross between Gaelic and country. What do you call it, and where did it come from? What were your inspirations as you began to write and create music?
This is Jessica here.
Good morning.
First of all, writing is my favorite, and I did get started pretty young. Dad likes to throw that out. I like to throw that out. But I realistically didn't start writing until I was born, 16. And in that interval of time, I learned a lot of old traditional Irish tunes and songs. And at the bulk of what we were playing was like written 300 years ago. And meanwhile, we were listening to a lot of contemporary music. We were in dance, so everything from foxtrots and the old crooners all the way up to top 40 and everything in between. Personally, I can throw out everything from Celine Dion and Enya, all the way to Kelly Clarkson, Carrie Underwood. I like a lot of bands now that are trying different things. Maybe they're not even the most famous or successful bands, but people that explore really intellectual lyrics or adventurous sounds and things like that. And as a band together, we have a lot of different sounds, actually. We've dabbled in things that sound like they're the Lion King and things that sound like Enya and things that sound like, Justin Timberlake. So it's across the board. Our latest CD, I think, is our most original and core sound, no pun intended, because our biggest inspiration was probably the Corrs out of Ireland. They were another family band. Three sisters and a brother.
Interesting.
And we've been compared to them a lot, and that is only delightful for us because they are very talented. They had a really cool pop sound that also incorporated Irish instruments, which is, again, our strength as well. So when it comes to influences, I can just be talking all day long. It's like, pick a genre and I'll tell you my top 10.
Well, you're talking about your latest CD, which is Heaven, and that album has so many different flavors to it. You've got like the Heaven remix, so you've got like this pop infused, really cool sound, and then it mixes with some of the other songs that have this country and Irish. It's really, really well put together, not just from a production standpoint, but from an arrangement standpoint. And it really sounds very cool. And I think that it appeals to people who might like, just country or just Gaelic or Irish. It really brings everybody in. Yeah. It's a really cool CD and a cool sound.
Thank you very much. When we're writing and we go into the arrangement process and stuff, a lot of times we try and serve this song because we do have a lot of genres that we like. We do have a lot of we can be a chameleon band in some ways because there's so many people that like to do so many different styles. So we'll experiment, and sometimes the song comes along and we go, oh, this is obviously a big band song. Or sometimes we go, well, this could be country, Irish, bluegrass, or trance, and we don't really know, so we give it a shot. And we really did, at the beginning of sitting down with Heaven, we really did kind of say, hey, the whole album will have, this sort of sound, but this song, Heaven, we did do 3 different ways, and, that's just kind of a not-so-subtle representation and statement of us saying, hey, we do a lot of different stuff, and even if you hear what we're doing now, that's not all we do, and we love to blow out all of those genres into their own projects. Eventually, we kind of have like 20 albums lined up to go, but for us, as far as material goes, but we do the arrangements, the writing, the studio recording, and all the editing in the studio, so it takes us, when we're on the road, there's not much time for recording, so there's a lot of discussion and questions there of how we're going to do that all.
Wow, it sounds like quite a task you guys are taking on, and I'm sure Jess and Jerry, because you're the older of the two, probably take a bit of more of a lead role in things. But the one thing that I want you guys, especially because you are the oldest, is the music business is not like it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 3 years ago, 30 years ago, as your dad had mentioned earlier. Music is so free today, and touring, as you well know, is a big part of making a living today. What do you see yourself in 30 years doing? I mean, nothing's going backwards. So in 30 years, do you see you continuing to do this and making a career out of it?
Yeah, I think that's, like I said, there's a lot of people involved, and even watching the little kids come up. I mean, Jager is 5. You should have been there yesterday. He literally auditioned in front of the rest of the family with tears in his eyes because he was mad. He didn't want the new lead guitar part to go to the 9-year-old. He wanted it at 5, and he stood up in front of everybody and did it. So trust me, as far as like the band going on, the band will go on. There's a lot of members that are really itching to get in the front line, and it's so great. I was totally crying because I'm emotional like that. I know I'll be writing till the day I die. And I think for our personal business that we're running, it's very unique because Dad kind of jokes we have a perpetual band because there are so many things, you know, like. Well,
your mom have a say in that.
Yeah, and so like I know I would like to have a lot of kids, and although I like performing, my favorite and touring, and I love to travel, and I see performing as the best way for me to travel and get a lot of experience and do a lot of really cool things. For me, I'd be perfectly happy just writing. And I'm also, you know, have done a lot in the studio, so I see myself transitioning to a lot of that stuff. I'd be perfectly happy working behind the scenes.
Right.
And, you know, eventually seeing myself going that way. And that could be really soon. That could be still way down the road. Who knows? You know, there's, you know, in the arts and the music business, there are opportunities every day. There are 10 phone calls. You want to book this gig? You want to work with this person? You want to do this? And the way that things can move so drastically, so fast, makes it so hard to plan and so hard to know. And yet, what makes it really confusing is because of booking, you kind of know what you're going to be doing on a specific day 2 years from now because of what you've been booked for. So it's really weird. And like you're saying, things change so fast. And I do think, as my dad was mentioning, you know, I sit and write on the bus on my iPad, and sometimes that stuff doesn't sound so bad, you know, like, and it's going to be strange to see what you can produce as you're traveling, as you're moving, and there's hundreds of thousands of people out there right now exploring new technologies and exploring new ways of making music. So I know we're always going to be doing some of that, and even exploring other things that we like outside of music.
Jeremiah, do you pretty much echo those sentiments with a big ditto, or you're pretty quiet today, man?
Hey, it's Jer.
How you doing?
It's actually really, really hard to hear in the bus while it's moving.
Oh, is it?
Okay. Most of the conversation, but even just standing 2 feet away. So I didn't hear what the question was.
Oh, that's okay. What do you see yourself doing in 30 years? Are you going to stick it out in music? Because it's always changing. What do you feel in your heart and your mind?
I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. I'm stuck on like about 10 years right now. I love playing music, and you know what? God's given me a lot of talent, and so who am I to waste that? So I'm going to be playing music as long as it is physically possible.
Well, it's
short and sweet.
Yeah, it's a good thing though. I mean, you guys have really. I love music. I love all types of music, and there's something about you guys as a family, as a group of musicians. It's just really amazing to listen to you, to see you interact, and the values and the way that you handle things. I think that you know, you guys could write, you know, just a parenting book to teach other families how.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, I could see that in your future for sure, because what you've done with your kids is amazing. And then, you know, you guys, the kids, you know, you're amazing too, because I've seen you on the show helping your younger siblings come up too. There's no jealousy. There's no, you know, frustration with them. It's teaching them and helping them. And, you know, do you guys like that role as mentors for the younger kids?
Wait. Who said there's no jealousy? Or fighting, or where did that come from?
So, Toby, they must have cut that part out of the show, huh?
Hey, look, we are real people. We are not perfect. We make mistakes, and what I think differentiates us from other people is that we stick together as a family, no matter how hard it is.
And what you were saying about being mentors, I mean, like, I just brought up that situation from yesterday, and it's so, to look, as long as us as the older kids that are being successful and everything, as long as we can keep in focus and remember ourselves at 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, there were so many people that inspired us. We got into the Irish music, and that Irish and country and bluegrass music, roots music, is different than pop music. It's something that's passed generation to generation, it has this history and this culture that is so beautiful. And I'm really, really thankful that that's what we got started in. Because pop music, classical music, a lot of times it doesn't have that same appeal. The dance and the characters and all this stuff is married together. And we had the most famous Irish musicians in the world that actually had some experiences where they sat down and they encouraged us to play when we could only play the equivalent of Mary Had a Little Lamb, you know what I mean? And
right.
just being so inspirational to us. And so, you know, there's that. And so when we're looking at our little kids, what's crazy is how we play a lot of that role for them. Yes, they actually know top-of-the-line Irish musicians and stuff now, and they meet amazing legends at the Opry, and I swear everyone is Jager's friend. Even in America's Got Talent, all these people walking around. We were Jager's siblings. Like, that's how we were known. He walks in and he's like, hey, and we're like, who is that? He's like, oh, that's my friend, the sound guy, you know, and it's like, I don't even know that man, but Jager does.
That's a good guy to be a friend with, let me tell you.
Absolutely. You definitely want to be Jager's friend. So there definitely is, so the kids help you stay grounded, help you stay inspired, because when you can turn around and inspire somebody else, that's a really cool stage that we're getting to in our music. That's changing a lot.
And that kind of falls in with what I was going to ask you, actually, was, you know, offer up some advice. Not everyone's going to make it. Not everyone's going to be a Willis Clan. Not everyone's going to be a Justin Timberlake. Not everyone's going to be famous in music. But the important thing about music is making the music. And so with that in mind, what kind of advice do you guys have from being, you know, you're really quite at that one of those plateaus right now that you're going to continue to climb the mountain. But what kind of advice do you have for people that want to climb that mountain as well?
Honestly, when it comes to I think music enriches anyone's life. So I will always encourage someone to pursue skill and also see what they want to add to the body of music. I think learning a skill and learning already existing material is cool and important, and also adding and finding ways to express your own self. That's great. Everyone, I think, should get the chance to do that and should try and pursue that. When it comes to it being a business, there's a whole other set of things you have to worry about. I think a lot of times you have to have something unique. There's 100 people out there that can sing better than you, okay? And there's 100 people out there that can play guitar better than you. And the skill, yes, should always be pursued and can always be bettered. But you have to look at the package. What's different about you? You have to be yourself. You can't, you know, you're going to have to work with other people. You're going to have to get a band around you, whether it's your family or whether it's studio musicians or whether it's producers. And you're going to have to figure out what you want to say and what you want to do. Because if you just go in saying, I want to be famous, or I want to make a career in music, you're not really going to have the roots and the anchors that you need to get through a lot of the hard work that it takes to make it your career. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely.
No, that's great advice. Makes perfect sense.
Jared,
I may employ some of those tactics.
This is Jared. The one piece of advice I always give people when they want to do music, they say, look it up on YouTube. If you want to learn how to play something, look it up on YouTube.
Yeah,
sure.
That's where I learned how to play most of my instruments. People literally, with YouTube and internet now, people literally have the resources that they need at their fingertips to learn practically anything that they want.
It's absolutely true. And I think
that's a great point.
A lot of people, I think, overlook that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, there's so much that you can learn online for free. And it's amazing that that's where you've learned a lot of your instruments. It's really, you know, it's a cool thing that we have now. And as your younger siblings grow up in this world with technology, I mean, things are going to be even more advanced when they're growing up. So, you know, who knows where the music industry is really going to go.
Yeah.
You know, I want to give you guys a chance just to talk a little bit about where you're going. You guys are in the middle of a tour. What are you guys on the way to the Massachusetts tour date, right?
Yeah, we're out for about 60 days right now, so we're out on the road a lot.
Basically till middle of September. So this is actually our longest stint, our longest tour. We just did a tour for 1 month in Ireland, which was amazing, and it was long, and this is double that. So.
Yeah, and before that, we were all the way out on the West Coast, got to see Yosemite, the Grand Canyon, went all the way up to Oregon, California, Texas. So we're
putting some good miles on the bus.
Right. Well, you guys have your tour schedule online for people that want to go and see you. I mean, you're going to be everywhere. You're going to be in Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio. So just you're out there everywhere. And, you know, all you guys have to do if you're interested in seeing the Willis Clan, check out their website. All your music is available there. It's also available on iTunes. So there's plenty of opportunity for people out there who want to experience you live or your music to be able to just go to your website and you know, to find out more about you. So it's a really great resource. And, you know, I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time. It's not easy driving a tour bus and you know, trying to find out where you're going and talk to people at the same time. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time today to talk about so many different things.
We just want to thank you guys to take time talking to us and helping us tell part of our story. So.
You know, I just want to mention we had a lot of questions come in during the show, as we sometimes do, and we unfortunately were not able to get to them. So I don't know if you guys would be up for it, but maybe we could have you back on sometime after your tour ends, and we can get through some of the questions that our listeners have for you.
Yeah, sure. That would be great. That'd be awesome.
Perfect. Well, I want to wish you guys continued success. I hope the tour goes great. I'm a fan personally, and I think that more people, you know, who are experienced to your sound and your unique, you know, music, I think they're going to fall in love with you. I think it's wonderful, and I want to thank you for all that you've given to fans of music, because it's a unique sound, one that I can't find elsewhere. And I know that, you know, you were talking about maybe being compared to the Coors, but you're completely unique, and it's a great sound. You guys are doing an awesome job, and I want to thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, so we'll be in touch. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll have you back on to get through some of these questions. Good luck, guys, and thanks again.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye. So, Bob, you know, great advice, great interview. They had a lot of information.
It's amazing the talent level that's there, but also you know, and you hit on it earlier on. They seem fairly grounded. They seem like they are. I don't want to say besting, but they figured out a lot of what is not perfect with family life today in America, and they've made some adjustments and to make their own imprint on their children's lives, which is huge. Not enough people do that today. There's so many people that don't take an interest in making sure their kids are getting what they need. Not only, I mean, food, roof, you know, et cetera, but in life, to make them better people and shape them into people that are going to be productive down the line. And it seems like they've got it kind of figured out, and that, you know, in the music seems like it's a reward for them. Yeah, you know, I wasn't joking when I said they should write a parenting guide, because really, I agree. You know, I would read it. Right, me too. And I don't like it, but I hate it. I'm telling you, I try to get my three boys together just to go to the supermarket or something, and it's, you know, it's World War III to get everybody out of the house. How these guys have done it, it's unbelievable. But, you know, I think a lot has to do with their faith. I think a lot has to do with some of the skills that you do learn as an athlete. It doesn't have to be wrestling. Just as an athlete, you have discipline and drive and determination. I think that probably helps them. Mm-hmm. But what a great family. No, absolutely sounds like, you know, I don't have cable television, so I don't get to watch it, but I can obviously catch them online. And I think I'm going to check them out, because just I'm interested in seeing how they handle some of the situations in life with their kids and what they deal with on the road. And I'm not, my kids work a little bit in, we'll call it showbiz if you want. You know, they do some voiceover work for apps, and they do some voiceover work for video games and commercials and stuff like that. And it's a situation where they come out and they see me in the studio, and they want to try some different things. So it's a lot about what they want to do. But in the same token, as we get into larger projects, and we had a situation yesterday where the kids were singing, or one of the children were singing a nursery rhyme, but they weren't singing it in the particular fashion that they're used to. It's a lot of work. And so I have to kind of drive the bus, and it's difficult not to get on them so hard like they would a normal person and motivate them to find where they need to go. And that's what I want to learn, and it's how to be a better coach for my kids.
Yeah.
And not be, I'm a disciplinarian. I'll admit it. I'm a tough cookie when it comes to my kids, and I've been rewarded for it. My kids are always complimented about how they behave, and they always do a great job. But I can always get better at it, and I'm always looking to get better at it because I don't think I always present things the right way. And I made, in watching their show, maybe I can learn something. And if they did write a book, I might learn something as well about maybe how I can do things differently and better. And that's what I'm very interested in with them.
Yeah, you talk about coaching your kids. I was a coach from like a sports coach. I coached soccer and baseball with my kids. And there was this level in me where, I don't know that I was necessarily being overly competitive, but I knew that they could do better. And so, sometimes I would push and it wasn't working. It felt overbearing and they weren't responding. Right. So, that's something. There's got to be a balance. And the Willis family, they have to be doing something right in order to get their kids to be motivated, but yet not hate what they're doing. So there's got to be
exactly, yeah.
There's secret sauce somewhere.
No, and you're absolutely right, and it's and I'm a pessimist, I'm a skeptic, I'm always looking to see what are you up to, and that's the one thing I'm curious about is what are some of the things maybe they've done wrong and I should have asked, that they learned from. Maybe they were doing things one way and they realized it wasn't working and they changed how they did it to either get their child motivated or to keep them on the right path or whatever it was. But, because everyone learns from their mistakes, everybody makes them. If you're not making mistakes, you're not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it just seems like they've got this outlook about life, which if we all had it, I think we'd be so much better off where they can just, because look, stuff happens, bad things happen. And so much has happened. I mean, Toby's been through a lot in his life. There's been a lot of tragedy, yet they're happy and upbeat and they're thankful for the gifts that they have. And I think that right. Probably has a lot to do with their success, because when you feel happy and, you want to be nice and you want to give love and share, I think you reap rewards that other people don't.
No, you're right. Yeah, it's and that's where a bit of optimism works out.
Yeah,
and that's coming from me, the pessimist.
Well, it's hard, but
someday I'll figure that out.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I was really, really, thankful that we were able to speak with them today and learned a lot about them. What you see is what you get. They seem to be good people. I don't know them personally, but they're the kind of people that you'd want to hang out with. And that, that's
right.
That's not something that everybody has. It's not a quality that everybody has. So,
Lord knows nobody wants to hang out with me.
Even your kids don't want to hang out with you.
Make them work.
Yeah.
I don't want to paint anymore.
They've the Willis Clan, they have a really good website. It's thewillisclan.com. And, I was talking about their event schedule coming up. So they're on their way to the Barnstable County Fair in East Falmouth, Massachusetts, which is a beautiful place, by the way. And then the rest of their tour dates, they're available. They're going to be in Troy, Pennsylvania, New Paltz, New York, Bedford Heights, Ohio, and the list goes on and on. They're going to end up in Rocky Mount, Virginia on September 27th at the Harvester Performance Center. So they have a very, very busy summer and a lot of driving. So,
did I see on their schedule they're actually in Michigan today?
No, it looks like they left Illinois. They had a tour date July 23rd at the county fair in Wheaton, Illinois, and now they're driving to Massachusetts. I don't see Michigan on here. We're going to have to talk to them about that.
I see Hartford. Are you on the WillisClan.com?
I am.
Yeah, Van Buren Youth Fair, Hartford, Michigan, July 22nd.
Oh,
Right
you're right. I missed that one because it's fast too.
I want to make sure we had the same source.
Right. Yeah, Hartford, Michigan. So
they're
you
about
missed
3
that.
hours. They're about 3 hours from me, unfortunately, but I would definitely go see them just to say hi. Maybe get a little more insights.
Yeah, the music is really amazing. I love, like I said, I love all kinds of music. I love Gaelic-inspired stuff. I like Enya, but their music is so cool because it's pop-infused, yet there's also some traditional country, and then there's a little bit of electronic every once in a while. It's really, really cool.
I hear some bluegrass in there, yeah. I mean, I love bluegrass. The musicianship for bluegrass to me is just amazing. So that's the thing I like. And I saw them playing. It's like, wow, these guys just. It's mind-boggling to really know how you get that many children to give a crap about one thing.
Yeah. And it's so funny because
they do it well.
They're all talented. They're super talented. They're all super good looking, super talented. It's amazing. I don't know how they did it.
They weren't born in Stepford or anything. I hope they're just all right. They are. You could say there's a lot of people like to throw out the word perfect, but that's not. I don't like using that word because it's an end result. But they are a great example of what you'd like to develop. I mean, not only as a family, but as individuals, and obviously being in the music business, artists. Yeah,
and I think that as a business person, as a business owner, I think you can extract so much from what they talked about today. Even if you're not in the business of music, I think the lessons that they talked about today, the things, their experiences, you can extract that and apply that to your life as a business owner, an entrepreneur, a manager, whatever you might be doing. And there's a lot of hidden gems that you can pull out. And so I think that this interview today is helpful not just for people that are interested in breaking into the music business, but for everybody, parents, kids, and business people. So it was a well-rounded show, and I'm very happy with the way that it turned out.
Likewise.
Yeah, they did a great job, and really do appreciate the time, and they spent more time than we had asked them to spend, and that just speaks to what kind of people they are, and so really, really thankful for them. Bob, that's going to do it for today. This being
great time.
Our second episode of On a Different Note, and hopefully you guys out there are liking it. Our first show with Nate Maingard was very, very well received, and now this show with the Willis Clan, even more information than I had hoped to get out of them. And so, hopefully you guys out there like this format and what we're doing here. I want to thank you all for tuning in, for downloading it, for watching live, for subscribing. Don't forget to subscribe to all of our channels. You can go to UTLRadio.com and there's links to everything there. You can stream the show live. You can subscribe through iTunes. You could subscribe to the YouTube channel. But definitely go to UTLRadio.com, check it out. You can see upcoming events, giveaways, contests that we have, things that we're working on. So, I encourage you to go there and then give us some feedback. Let us know what you like, what you learned from the Willis Clan. And now thank you to all of you who have called in. I know there were a number of you that were waiting on hold, and a lot of questions coming in through the chat room. Thank you. I'm sorry that we didn't get to you, but we asked them if they'd be willing to come back. They said yes, and so we'll have them back on and we'll get through your questions. That's going to do it. I think what we'll do is we're going to play maybe their remix of Heaven, which is an awesome song, and we'll let that play us out.
Why would I ever want to live? I won't let go. The world is rushing by our window, but time can't touch us in this place. I'm surrounded by your light. Oh, now I know. So this is what it feels like, yeah, to hold forever in your hands. So this is what it looks like, yeah, gazing on where angels stand. If there's such perfection within this fallen world, I wonder what will heaven be like. Let me hide along your fringes, as close as mortal hearts can be. Take these pieces left